Hey, it's Peter Reed Miller from Peter Reed Miller on Sports Photography. I am here today with the new Canon EOS Mark III, EOS 1DX Mark III, the newest of the new. Here you go. There you go. It's going to blocked by the lens. That doesn't look any different than the other one, so, you know. Actually, I have it next to a Mark II. There are subtle differences in the bodies and the controls. I'll go over that. Now, this didn't come with a manual, and the best source of information that I have found is a Canon white paper. And the only way I reached this white paper was through a link in Mac Rumors, or Canon Rumors. So if you go to canonrumors.com, scroll down, you'll see a link for the white paper. They have one on the still video, which is what I'm going to talk about today, also one on the still photography, also one on the video, which I'm not going to talk about today because I don't do that. But I'm going to try and give you an idea of what this camera means to me as a photographer. Just going over the points, and now go into details. New autofocus system, high capacity processor, more sensors, smaller sensors, a lot of stuff like that. Basically, we think we're going to get better autofocus. Now, I will tell you, I just got this camera. I haven't had a chance to shoot it. I will be shooting it this weekend at an NFL playoff game. So this is part one. Part two will be how it worked and showing some pictures. But part one is this is the camera and these are the features. The live view is improved greatly. Now I know that most sports photographers don't use live view except maybe for remotes, but it's there and they've done a lot of work on it. They have a lot of different options in the autofocus for tracking. Tracking people, face tracking, head tracking, I'll talk about that. In live view, eye tracking, but no animal face tracking. No animal face tracking. So your pictures, your dogs and cats, you still got to figure them out. New processors, Canon always does upgrades the processors. That's great, but file size is about the same as the Mark II. But it's a totally new sensor, and as a result of that, it has better high ISO performance, less noise. Canon estimates that you'd have about one stop less noise, so your ISO 6400 would now look like your ISO 3200, which I think looks pretty good when I shoot. So 64 was always getting up to kind of bothering me, and if that comes down, the amount of noise, that's great. 16 frames per second through the viewfinder. If you want to go to live view, 20 frames per second. I think that'd be great for remotes. I don't see using it. I don't see putting this lens on a 400 and then looking from behind, but there are some uses there, and they've done a lot of improvements, as I said, with the AF and the live view, which is different, and all that. I'm not really going to dwell on that because that's not what I do, but I would say for a remote, easy to set up. I always use live view to set up my remotes, and 20 frames per second. Not bad. Burst rate buffer. Now in the 1DX Mark II with a CFast card, shooting just RAWs, you got about 170 frames. In the EOS 1DX Mark III, shooting with the new CF Express cards, you get 1,000 shots, one followed by 3 zeros. 1,000 shots in the buffer. If you're shooting RAW, if you're shooting JPEG plus RAW, which usually gets less, 1,000 shots. It's amazing. You never have to stop for anything. So that's a big one. And again, this new card, I'll talk about a little bit more about it, has a much higher transfer rate, potentially up to 2 gigabytes per second, whereas the CFast, which we thought were the greatest thing ever, are about 600 megabytes per second. So yeah, the card. The card is new. Very few places. B&H has them. I haven't really seen anybody on Amazon who was delivering. The camera has 2 slots, and they are both for, they're both for the CF Express. So there's no options. There's no CFast, there's no CF, SD, blah, blah. Both for these. Good news and bad news. you buy the camera, you got to buy new cards. This is a 128 gigabyte, probably be about 200 bucks at B&H. I'm sure the prices will come down as more manufacturers get into the field, but there's not much out there. Where there's even less is readers. I got this card reader from B&H. It's called a Black Jet. It's very fast. It's Thunderbolt 3. Thunderbolt 3. It's big. It's a lot bigger. I'm sure there will be other cards. I know SanDisk has one coming. So this is all new technology, and it's going to require somewhat of an investment over and above the price of the camera. But what you're going to get is incredible speed, a giant buffer. You know, you could live in that buffer, 1,000 frames. Great transfer speed when you're ingesting. So it's good. It's good. It's just like most things technologically, good means a little more money. So, okay. Now the camera will shoot JPEGs, it will shoot RAWs and all the sizes, but it also shoots something called HEIF files. Now this is the same format that the Apple iPhone uses. The HEIF format are compressed, and actually more compressed than JPEGs, but they're 10-bit color instead of 8-bit color. So, and again, I haven't seen this, but according to Canon, if you shoot with those files, you're going to get a greater dynamic range, especially on a monitor that's set up for that. So that's kind of a unexplored territory at this point, but I'm going to try it and see. They do require more processing time, so your buffer goes down to 300 shots. 300. All right. Camera has GPS in it. I don't know much about it because I don't use it. I usually know where I am because I'm at a football game or something. Okay, the new autofocus system. One of the first things, if you have shot with any kind of 1DX camera, is the cases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Can anybody tell me what 5 and 6 really do? I don't know. I never use them. Well, guess what? They figured that out, so they got rid of it. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then auto. Now, this is the kind of way I always thought it should be. But auto lets the camera decide what is the best autofocus method for the subject you're shooting. We'll see how that works. That could be great. That could be great. Apparently, there's a lot of knowledge in this camera. There's a lot of stuff in the chips and the processing chips that it can apply to situations. Okay, talked about the sensor files. They're 20.1. You don't need a big file. I mean, I make huge prints from this camera, huge, and they look fine. They look great. Unless you're doing, I don't know, you're doing nature and you want to do wall-size prints where everybody can see the leaves on the trees. 20 megapixels is fine. So the AF detection speeds on the sensor are faster. And the readout speeds are about twice as fast. This is the minute time that it takes the autofocus sensor to focus. That will bring your top speed of 16 frames per second down a little bit, but it'll bring it down less because it's working faster. And the processing speeds of the data off the sensor, such as doing JPEGs or whatever, 40 times faster than they were in the Mark II. So. Now the system looks about the same. It's 191 points. If you've used any of these cameras, there's the different areas you can select. You can control the areas. That all, to me, seems to be pretty similar up to this point. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I love the fact that they got rid of cases 5 and 6 because I never knew what they were, and people would ask me. It's like, yeah. A couple of things. The camera is supposedly better to focus through heat haze. Now, any of us who've done football games at certain stadiums at certain times of the year when it's hot and you want to get down low and kneel and suddenly none of your pictures are sharp, that's that heat haze. So you got to stand up. Apparently, this camera is working better through that. The other thing is objects moving away from the camera. Now, there are times at a football game when something happens. and it goes away from me. It's an interception, whatever. And I'm autofocusing on it, but still, there can be the jubilation, there can be a lot of stuff going away from the camera, and apparently this autofocus system is improved on that. So another thing new on the autofocus is you can set the priority for people. And if you do that, then it brings in face detect, which this camera has. But the Canon guys kind of were a little smarter or whatever, but they also put in head detect. So if the face is, because I've never used face detect on football because guys have face guards and, you know, total covering, but head detect, in theory, detects the shape of a human head. So again, something we're going to see about this weekend. You can control your switching of the subject switching. So what are you focusing on? How quickly is it going to jump to something else? Which is kind of what you do in the cases, but I think this is a separate area. So you can follow a subject. Now I've seen this on some other branded cameras, and if it works as well as that, it's almost too much. I mean, there's a high school quarterback rolling out, and the camera, not going to mention names, followed him right onto the bench. That's a little much, but you can also slow that down, or you can eliminate it completely, in which case it focuses on what you want to. Yeah, eye detect is only in live view, but face detect and head detect, which I think is the big thing, is in the viewfinder shooting too. Okay, so low noise, high ISO, better high ISO. They have files. They have a clarity setting in the menus too that I think allows you to up your mid-range contrast on your JPEGs at least. So that'll be interesting to play with. Okay, the back. Let's show you a few things on here. See if I can get this to a reasonable position. Okay, the back screen is a full touch screen right now. Now, I have turned that off because I don't really, I find that I would move my autofocus point with my nose. So I don't really like that. Maybe I'll get used to it, but right now it's off. They also have this new controller here. What do they call it? In any case, it's this little button here. It's not a joystick like this, but just by putting pressure on different areas, you can move your focus spots, you can set it to do other things. It's just another way to control the camera. I've noticed on the Canon mirrorless, Canon wants to give you options as to how you control the camera. So you can set it up the way you want it. So that's pretty cool. All this stuff, you know, I'm an old school guy, and what I do when I get a new camera is set it up as much as I can like my old camera. And then, slowly but surely, I explore the new features. For example, when I got the Mark II, I believe it was right before the London Olympics, and I just had it set up. I was at a gymnastics, the trials in San Jose, and another photographer came up to me and said, "Do you know this thing will do multiple exposures?" I was like, "Huh? No, I didn't." So that's the whole world that we started playing around with, and I don't think anybody's really solved that in terms of how to do it. But you know, I would suggest, I don't know where these white papers are on the Canon site, but if you go to the Canon site and you poke around on the Mark III, you will find some great videos by Rudy Winston. Rudy Winston is the smartest man in the world. He knows more about Canon cameras than anybody on the planet, including guys who build it. And he's done a couple of videos on this camera that are great and probably make a lot more sense than me. But I would suggest finding that white paper, which is through Mac Rumors. They have a link. I couldn't find any other way, but it's about 50 pages, PDF. You can download it, and it really spells it out. It really spells out everything this camera will do. Yeah, I would really recommend that. Next page is blank. Oh, it uses the same battery, same charger. So there you save some money, but supposedly you get about twice as much out of that battery, twice as many frames. How they do that, I don't know, but very cool. So let's hook this up. Just put my 8514 on here. Okay. I'm going to put the card in it if I haven't lost. Oh, here's the card. Okay. Yeah, these are kind of cool. A lot of this card technology is, you cannot use XQD cards, although they look the same. But a lot of the card technology, I believe, is developed for video now, for the high-speed video. And they want faster and faster and faster. So a lot of this stuff comes over from that. I think the CFast did, and I think this did too. But, okay, so let's put it on manual. All right, we're in manual. So I'll line it up. Is that on? Is my autofocus on? Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to get to 1,000. This is JPEG and RAW. Oh, okay. Well, it's going to take the card a little bit to write. I just give you a little demo on how quickly it reads onto the computer. Okay, it's all written. Take it out. Put it in your nifty little card reader. Wake up the computer. Okay, that down. Decide later. Okay, we're going to ingest this to, let's make a file, test. We're going to make it primary in desktop. Test. Okay, ingest. So here we go. You can't see this, but trust me, the bar is moving across pretty quickly. And I think maybe I didn't get up to 1,000. I think I kind of let my finger slip. But that's, we're almost closing in on, okay, Bing, I just ingested 700 RAWs and JPEGs. So that's nice. It's going to be nice for people on deadline. It has a new Wi-Fi transmitter. That's not something I mess around with a lot, so there is a white paper on that too, I believe. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to work with than the last one. So that's kind of it. It's a new camera. It's got a lot of new stuff. It's not just a, kind of a few things in the same old body. It's got new controllers. It's got a new sensor. It's got new autofocus. Uses new cards. Faster, better. I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to this Saturday night. I'll be in Baltimore at the Ravens game, and I think it's going to rock. And I will be back to give you a report as soon as I've gotten back to LA and gotten a look at the images. So that's pretty much it on the EOS 1DX Mark III. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. A little note, I'm going to be involved in a GF Crew workshop in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, March 12th through 15th. Baseball at the Cal Ripken Experience, track and field at Carolina Coastal, lectures. Zamati Feelings is going to be there as well. He's an excellent photographer out of Philly. And so check it out, GF Crew workshop. Go to that, search that, and you'll find it. Other than that, till next time, good shooting. I want to thank my friends at GF Crew for making this video possible. If you want to make money shooting action sports, check out GF Crew. Go to gfcrew.com to join. It's free. They have a whole process and an app set up to help you make money shooting sports. Check it out. Get started today.